Okay, I got some comments on my shootout between the Friedman ASC-12 and the Headrush. And a couple of guys asked me a very good question regarding that episode, and I'm going to give them shout outs right now and read their questions to you, and then I'm going to go ahead and address their questions right here for you. Eric Fisher commented, I wonder if your patches were created on the Friedman. If so, did you adjust them for the Headrush, or did you just play patches that were designed to sound nice on your Friedman through the Headrush? Very good question. And Paul Wickham posted, yeah, I think you have set up your tones to work well with the Friedman and then just use that for the Headrush, so maybe not a truly fair test. Now, these are very fair points and good questions, and I appreciate these guys asking these questions very much. We're building a nice community here, and what I like about this community is that people ask questions and challenge some things. I like that because it keeps me in check, it keeps my demos in check, and it's good information for everybody, and I'll be glad to do follow-up episodes to answer people's questions and maybe do another test to prove different theories. So I'm going to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Mackie Thump, which is one of the plastic enclosures that I've done, shootouts with in the past, and I'm going to try my best to make it sound good. Now here's the thing, I wish I still had the Headrush here, but I only borrowed it for one night for that particular episode, so I'm going to have to use the Mackie Thump. Now I have to say this, all of the plastic cabs that I've done shootouts with all have the same issue. They all have that blanketed, hollow, kind of boxy sound to them. Now the level of that issue will vary from unit to unit slightly, but I will say that it's pretty much a unified thing through all of the plastic cabs that are out there. Okay, so let's go ahead with the test. Now stick with me on this test because there's a nice little twist at the end that I'm going to show you. So behind me is an enclosed area. I have some heavy blankets over the area so that you don't have any room reflections for the mic to pick up. I have the same Tascam mic that I always use. It's kind of a room mic, and I have it positioned in the sweet spot of the Mackie Thump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the untweaked profile through it, and then I'm going to play the tweaked profile through it and show you what I did. And then we're going to go ahead and do another quick experiment after that so that we can all kind of weigh in all of the information here so that we can proceed accordingly in the future when we're using plastic cabs to dial in our tone. So here goes. Okay, so there's a pretty big difference, and just so you know, there's only so much I can do to make that particular cab sound good. So I want you to take a look here at the Kemper, and if you notice all of the EQ settings here, this is bass, this is mid, this is treble, and that's presence. Now, this is a really good GGD KSR Gemini profile, and it sounds really, really good. I love it, and I'm going to do reviews of these very soon. But the thing that I want you to notice is look at the settings. Those are very unnatural settings. You would not set an amp up like that. I have never seen anybody walk on stage and dial that much stuff into an amp and make it sound good. It just doesn't sound good like that. And here's what I'm going to do now. Here's the twist. What I'm going to do now is show you what the direct profile sounds like. So in other words, if you took your Kemper to the studio or to the stage and plugged in direct, this is what this profile would sound like. And I'm going to give you a comparison between the raw profile and what I had to do with that profile to make it sound good through the Mackie Thump. So here we go. Okay, so obviously there was a huge difference between the raw profile and what I had to do to it to make it sound good in the plastic speaker cabinet. Now, the reason why this is a very important point to make in a very important episode to show you guys is this. If you're going to use a plastic monitor at home to practice with, and you're going to dial in your digital platform to make it sound good on that particular speaker, well, good, do that, because that's what you got to do to practice at home. But just keep in mind, if you take that same sound and go direct on stage or in a studio, you're going to have some major issues. I mean, as you heard there, all of the fullness was scooped right out of this thing to make it sound good in the particular cab that I'm using today. And all it sounded like was just all highs. I mean, look at the EQ. I mean, I have the treble cranked so much that it's like literally very unnatural. And I got the presence, it's a little higher than I would like it, and I had to bump the mids quite a bit, and I had to scoop out a lot of the bass. And honestly, I put bass back in because that mic that I'm using wasn't really representing the low end of the cab properly. So I added some bass back in so that it would be a fair test. But in the room, the cab's really boomy and not in a good way. It doesn't resonate. It just gives me a lot of that boomy low end that kind of overwhelms everything else. But for this video, and to be fair, I put a little more bass back in for the microphone that I'm using to pick that up, to add a little more fullness. So once again, I really appreciate Eric Fisher and Paul Wickham's comments and questions regarding this issue, because it gave me a chance to do an episode to clear some of this up and to show you what exactly happens when you do dial in your tones to match whatever kind of speaker cabinet that you're using, especially if it's like a plastic unit. And for everybody's information as well, when I use my Friedmans, there's literally no dialing in. I just grab a profile, select it based on what I like, which is what I did here. And typically, I don't touch it. Maybe I'll add an overdrive or something. And if I do dial in anything, it's very, very minimal. I might do like 0.5 of some treble, or bump the mids 0.5 or something like that, depending on the profile. If it's a little dark, I might do a little more than that. But honestly, 9 times out of 10, I don't usually touch it. I really don't. And here's the other thing to keep in mind. So far, every single time I've dialed anything in on my Friedmans, it translates well everywhere. There might have to be minor tweaks based on the PA in the room that I'm in when I'm performing live, or the studio that I go to. And what I mean is minor tweaks. I have yet to have a studio engineer or a live sound engineer look at me and go, dude, what the hell's up with your profile? It sounds like crap. I mean, I can't even use that. It's making my ears bleed, or it's not setting in the mix right, or whatever. I never hear that. All I hear is, man, that sounds killer, and I'm coming there with inspiring sounding tones that sound engineers aren't pissed off at me for bringing. But if I was to bring this profile that I dialed in for that plastic cab in there and plugged in direct for the system there, they would have been pissed at me. They would have been like, how am I supposed to work with that? Like, dude, you're making my ears bleed. I mean, it would have been terrible. I mean, there's no balls, there's no fullness. It's all pretty much just treble with a little bit of kind of like honky kind of mids when you plug it in direct. So once again, keep that in mind when you're dialing this stuff in. I mean, yeah, make your plastic cab sound great. But what I suggest is that if you have a good profile and you know it sounds good on studio monitors, use that for live performances. Don't use the same profile that sounds great with your plastic monitor, because it's not going to translate well anywhere else, only for that monitor or monitors like it. And I really appreciate the ability to do this episode for you guys so that we could clear some of this stuff up and all learn something. I learned something today. I thought that this would be the case, but I didn't really ever test it until now, and it's pretty much confirmed with me that that is totally the case. Okay, so here's one more thing that I wanted to bring up as a scenario. So let's just say you use a head rush or some other kind of plastic enclosure as a monitor on stage when you perform live. So now you got to deal with this situation. You got this tone that sounds great through your wedge that you use on stage for your monitor, but it sounds horrible through the house. You got to find a workaround for that. And honestly, what I would suggest that you do, I don't know if you can route one to the house and one to you. If you can figure that out, that would be great. That way you got the best of both worlds. The house gets the flat profile that they can minorly tweak for their needs, and you get the best version of your profile for your monitoring situation. Now, if you have to choose between one or the other, I would go with the flat profile, and you just got to deal with it while you're on stage, because the audience is more important. They have to enjoy what they're hearing. And I get it. You have to be inspired and enjoy what you're hearing too. But I would rather have a little bit of an issue on stage with what I'm listening to and know that the audience is enjoying the performance, because that's really what I'm there for, than me enjoying the performance more than them. I mean, that would really suck for them, because you're just killing the room with crappy tone. So keep that in mind as well. And the best suggestion I can give you, honestly, is get a wooden enclosure that sounds fantastic, where you don't have to do all these major tweaks to it to make it sound good, so that you can use it as a monitor live on stage. With my Friedmans, when I go on stage, I don't have to do anything. I've never had anybody come up to me and go, that's an unusable tone, dude. I got to do all this stuff to it. You got anything else that you can use? And I'm also wondering if sound guys are going to start asking you, what did you dial your profiles in on? Because I need to know if it's going to translate well in my system. And if I was your sound guy and you told me, yeah, I used a plastic cab, I would know right away, like, do not use that same profile here. You're going to have to flatten everything out, because I don't want to deal with that. So once again, keep that in mind, and I really appreciate you guys watching. And for all my subscribers, thank you so much. And for everybody who's watching this for the first time and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And click the bell so that you can get notified when I come out with new episodes, because I got a lot of great stuff coming up. And I'll see you on the next one.